All right, everybody, welcome to an exciting episode that I am looking forward to. We've got a couple guests with us today to talk about tree saddles. We've been getting a lot of comments and feedback over the last couple of years that Todd and I need to be using more tree saddles. The truth is, we don't know anything about them. We've never used them. So we figured we'd grab a couple of folks that know what they're talking about and get them over here to talk with us today. So we've got Parker McDonald, who is with Southern Ground Hunting. He's the host of the podcast and the YouTube channel. And then we've got Jan Corrigan, who is the marketing manager or director, whatever you want to call it, for AeroHunter, who makes some of the finest tree saddles on the market. So these guys know a lot more about the saddles than Todd and I do, admittedly. My experience so far has been putting one on and walking around the office with it. And that's about it. And I think Todd briefly tried one at the ATA show this year.
I'm a step ahead of Justin. I actually was in a tree and kind of moved around and figured I did a little more than you did.
You're one step ahead of me. You've actually been hanging from a saddle a foot off the ground. So
I'm pretty sure Justin was in the corner making memes about saddle hunters while you were trying one out. That's what he was doing at ATA at that time.
I might make a couple while we're filming this today. If you give me any good idea. I've moved on to the heavy arrow crowd now. I'm kind of off the saddle hunting. That got me into enough trouble as it was. So
yeah, I enjoyed those the heavy arrow memes that you put out there. Yeah.
I just can't help myself. So let's start with Parker, right? So man, start us at the beginning. How did you get started with a saddle, and why did you decide that I'm going to grab one of these things and go hang off the side of a tree?
All right, so it really was kind of fate, I guess, if you want to call it that. It was pretty cool. So I did a year of hunting public land using a kayak. So anybody who's watched or listened to anything that is Southern Ground Hunting, that's kind of like the thing that I do, is I use a kayak everywhere. And here in Alabama, in the South, just in the South in general, our deer densities just aren't not as good. And so when you decide you want to hunt public land, you better be ready for a lot of disappointment. And so I was just like, you know what? I'm going to try this thing with my kayak and see if I can get back to some places that are just harder to get to, and basically hunting deer that aren't nearly as pressured. And that was like my thing. So I went out and bought the lightest at the time, the lightest that I could afford climber, which ended up being a Hawk Warbird climber, and used that for that whole first season. And I wasn't filming though that season. So I had that climber and it was okay. You know, I tagged out on bucks. I killed my 3 bucks here that year, and that was cool. I was like, man, not a lot.
You do know if it's not on film, it doesn't count, right?
Yeah.
So I mean that this is allegedly at this point, these deer that you shot,
allegedly I shot 3 deer. Yeah. So no, I killed those 3 bucks and I was really excited. I killed some does and stuff, and so that was really cool. And so then I went on Dan Johnson's podcast, the 9 Finger Chronicles podcast. A bunch of my buddies were like, hey, you should talk to Dan, see if this would be something that he would want to have on the podcast. And so I hit him up. I was like, hey man, would you be interested in talking about this? And he was like, absolutely. So went on his podcast, and then this weirdo by the name of Greg Godfrey sent me a message on Facebook, and this was before Tethered existed. And he sent me a message on Facebook. It's like, hey man, just listen to your podcast with Dan, and I think you need to be using a tree saddle. And I was like, no, like, I was like, that doesn't sound like something that I'm interested in at all. And so we talked, and we ended up, talking for a while there on Facebook Messenger just about it. And he sent me some videos, and I was like, okay, all right, I'll do this. And that night I was like, I'm hunting from a tree saddle this year. And then a few months later, they started Tethered, and I had Greg on the podcast to talk about saddle hunting and stuff like that. He started Tethered, started the company with some other saddle hunters, and pretty much from that point forward, I was pretty much in it. Like, I was like, okay, this is, and so the next year is when I started filming, and it just really made sense for me not to have to carry in a big climber plus all the filming equipment. You guys know how that is. like when you start adding camera gear, it's just a whole new level of junk that you have to take in the tree with you. So the saddle just made sense. I'm wearing it with me all the time. Literally the only thing I have to carry extra is some climbing sticks. And then I got all this room for my camera equipment. So that's really where I got started. Greg sent me that message and really just took off from there. That off season, they started Tethered. I started hunting out of the Tethered Mantis, and I actually killed a deer my first sit in a saddle on opening day that season, which was the 2017, 2018 season, somewhere around there. First sit, I killed one, which was pretty cool. I was hooked on it from that point forward.
So how long did it take you? That one was on film. How long did it take you to get comfortable using a saddle, right? So, I mean, obviously, I'm assuming anyways, the first time you hunted out of one wasn't the first time that you climbed up a tree with one. You probably had one that spring or summer, went out with it. Like, how long does that process typically take to figure it all out?
Yeah, so Todd, that is actually on film. To answer your question, I do have that one on film.
We're gonna watch that hunt when we're talking. We want to see some action here.
Yeah, you will see it. It's not great footage, but it's decent footage anyway. It took me, man, I was one of the guys, just seeing how much easier it was for me to be able to get the shot that I actually took on this deer was like kind of back behind me to my, I guess, like 7 o'clock or so. Just shots like that are not going to be super comfortable in a tree stand, right? Like trying to shoot behind you with the tree over there. Like and so I was one of the few that really, I didn't feel like I had a huge learning curve. Now I know from a whole lot of other people, they'd have some pretty big learning curves. Just with tether height, Jan, you probably know this too. Your tether height changes, from time to time. Some people like it way up here. Some people like it way down here. And so it's just a matter of adjusting and learning that like sweet spot for you, depending on your build. Some people have no hips. Some people have big hips. Some people, whatever, have big butts. Some people don't. It's just like, it's every person is different as far as their setup goes. So it didn't take me long. But through time, I started like refining it and getting even more and more comfortable.
Got it. All right, so we'll kick it over to Jan. When did you get started saddle hunting? What's your story?
I got started saddle hunting about 4 years ago. Up here in Wisconsin, I didn't have any leases at the time, so I hunted a lot of the public land and was a big fan of Dan Infalt and the Hunting Beast, and that kind of style of hunting and finding spots way back into the marshes, and then actually using my kayak to get back to some of those spots too. So I can definitely relate to you on that, Parker. And basically, I had the Lone Wolf Assault, and then I think I went and bought there's what brand is that? The Millennium M7, which is like one of the lighter stands. I just got to the point where, I was bringing a camera and a backpack and a bow and the hang-on stand back into the woods or trying to kayak it in. And I was just looking for a lighter option, and I stumbled across saddlehunter.com, which was a big forum that was a lot of guys, and that was probably right before I think Tethered started. AeroHunter had been out there, and I know Trophy Line had been manufacturing saddles for years. And I just started reading about this world of saddle hunting, and it's all these guys who were, DIYing together tree saddles from tree slings and using these old saddles. And everyone was talking about how infinitely lighter and infinitely more functional they were than, trying to get a hang stand up into one of those smaller marsh trees, those trees that you can't get those hangers in. And
I've never hunted with Todd Graff, dude. He can get a hang on in anything.
Anything?
Okay. Bent over like this.
So, based on some of those tree options that I had, I just, I thought the tree saddles were cool. And I did my research about AeroHunter, and I read about their arborist history, being in business for 35 years. And AeroHunter started in 2014 when a group of hunters came to them for the exact same reason. They said, hey, we're looking for a lighter option. Would you guys be able to work with us to manufacture a saddle specific for hunters, where you basically take all the metal off your arborist saddle and lighten it up and, make a version for us? So I think about 4 or 5 guys came to Sophia and Casey, who are the Sophia Sparks is the owner of AeroHunter Saddles, and Casey Jones is the lead designer. He's actually a really interesting guy. He's always coming up with new great ideas for new saddles. And I showed you the new prototype here before it was started, and we have another one in the works as well. And you know, that ability to run and gun, go further and farther, be able to break down your set when you see the movement 100 yards away. That was kind of what appealed to me with the tree saddles. And I did a little bit of rock climbing in college, so I had a little bit of that background. I was familiar with the ropes and the knots. It's really not as difficult as it seems once you get started with it.
That's probably one of my bigger questions, right? I mean, what do you need to get started? Obviously, you need a saddle, but like when I look at it, I see all these connections and ropes and knots and some, like, it seems like it can be a little daunting.
Well, and I got to tell you too, before we dive into that, I mean, listen, I've never met either one of you two guys, but I mean, neither one of you guys look like the most. I mean, I'm a pretty skinny guy. I'll admit, people drop the Ethiopian jokes with me once in a while, but I mean, both of you guys.
I'm jealous.
I mean, both of you guys look like you're bigger dudes.
I'm freaking done with this. That's offensive.
Hey, it's not offensive. I'm just being honest. Is there a weight limit? Listen, tree stands got weight limits. I mean, you guys look like you're bigger dudes. I mean, and you obviously you're successful and you're both doing it. So, obviously, size doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter how big you are.
Size always matters, Todd. Come on.
You know, that's what she said, right? Someone else. Go ahead.
As far as AeroHunter saddles go, and I can't speak for the Tethered, but you know, as far as AeroHunters goes, we have a safe working load of 500 pounds for our tree saddles, a brake strength of 5,000 pounds. The ropes are rated 5,000 pounds. So this is all climbing rated gear that you're wearing. The harness is basically, you can't fall out of the tree. You're utilizing a lineman's belt when you're going up and setting your sticks. And once you get to your hunting height, you set your tree tether, which is basically the line that you hang from. This is an 8mm Oplux rope. It's actually got Kevlar reinforcing in it. So you know, these things are not going to break. And all of our tree saddles are built to ANSI spec as well. So our history of building tree saddles for the arborist industry requires us to adhere to those safety standards. So we incorporate all of that into our hunting saddles as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll say the same thing too for this, all the tethered stuff that I use. It's all tested. It's all tested in a lab. We actually, Jan, I don't know if you remember this, but at the Birmingham show, there was a fella, and I saw pictures on y'all's social media too. There was a fella who was, I mean, he was pushing 400 pounds probably. Yeah. And he, I don't see how he was comfortable, but he loved it. I know he came up to the Tethered booth where I was working, and I mean, the dude is like kind of making you like clench your butt a little bit. Like I'm not worried about the gear as much as I'm worried about this fake tree that's right here that he's sitting on.
We were worried about the tree too, but the saddle, he loved it and he thought it was really comfortable. So
yeah, and so like so we have the Tethered Phantom, which is a one size fits most. I believe that it's up to a 42-inch waist is what it is, and that's kind of a comfortable setting. I've seen guys that are bigger than that actually put it on, but I think, you know, the thing that really matters more than weight even does. I've seen big dudes wearing saddles and be comfortable with it, but I think a lot of it is a thing called saddle shape. So you're gonna get up there and you're gonna hunt. You know, let's say your season opens in September. If you haven't put in a ton of practice, you're gonna find your body's gonna be sore in places that you haven't been sore before, and it's just getting into the right shape to doing it. So you know, I would say that, you know, a fair amount of athletic ability, which you need that to climb a climber too, or to walk a mile deep on public land. Like most of the guys who are going to be looking at a saddle as an option are going to have the amount of athletic ability that it takes really to get up a tree and to sit. For me personally, I've never been more comfortable than I am in a saddle.
Agreed.
I think you could probably take the lowest quality, which would probably be like a sit drag DIY saddle, and I personally would find myself more comfortable than in a tree stand or a climber. It's just more comfortable to me. Like, I like it better. I'm not a small guy. I'm short. I'm 5'6", about 220. So I'm short and stocky, but I mean, I have never been uncomfortable in the saddle. And a lot of guys are. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the saddle is, you're never going to be uncomfortable. Some guys do, depending on your body shape. But I would say more than size, like what your question is, Todd, more than size is just having the ability to do basic athletic things. You know, climbing a tree is going to be an athletic thing that you have to do in the first place, for sure.
So Justin's out then. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Good talk.
I saw how bad he sweated in that Kentucky video from early season last year.
You saw
think
that
he's
too.
out.
I
You
still
were
remember
there.
that.
You were there. You know
It was
what it
terrible.
was like. It was like being on the surface of the sun.
Listen, my sweat pores on that trip, they closed up from the poison ivy, so I wasn't sweating as much. I just had poison ivy all over my face.
I had it all over my arms when we got home. I had to go get on prednisone.
Well, in this video, we'll put it up. I'll send you guys this so people can see that, because that was worth seeing, is the amount of poison ivy on my face.
Yeah.
So it was pretty bad.
It was all over that place for sure. And I made the very first night we climbed up. So, obviously Todd and I have been doing, lone wolf, sticks and stands really forever. I mean, Todd's the guy that got me started using lone wolf stuff, 15, 16 years ago. And, still using it today, and do not a lot, but I do a fair amount of hang and hunt through each year. Some of it's on public, some of it's on my own, just private stuff, where I decide, hey, I want to go check out a new area tonight, and I'm going to, do a hang and hunt. So that first night in Kentucky, I was with my buddy Matt. We split up. We went to, two different opposite ends of a field. I got in there and I just was not even paying attention. I just found a tree. I was sweating to death. I hung everything. I'm in a t-shirt. We get up in the tree. I'm sitting there. I'm just finally cooling down. We got like a group text with a bunch of guys, and Matt sends out a group text, and he's like, man, I've never seen so much poison ivy in my life. Like, it's everywhere. And I literally, like, I read the text and I looked down at the tree that I'm in, and the whole tree is just poison ivy. There's a giant vine wrapped around the tree that I'm sitting in. And I'd been, getting all my sticks, everything on there. I was like, uh-oh, like this isn't good. So we ended up going to Walmart or Walgreens or somewhere that night and getting some wash to try to get it off. But unfortunately, I didn't get it all off, but fortunately it wasn't all over my face. It's just my arms. So
dude, if I look at it the right way, it gets on me. It's bad.
Yeah, it was not good. So let's talk about
so size and athletical ability. We've covered those 2 points. It sounds like size isn't a problem, and as long as you got some athletical ability, you're going to be able to pull this off. So, and obviously it sounds like, like any kind of exercise or any kind of new thing that you do, listen, we've all hunted with somebody before, even when we're hanging a tree stand. You're like, okay, dude, just get out of the way. Just give me the stand. Let me get this thing done, because you're about ready to strangle him. So let's get into, where do you start? I mean, it's definitely interesting. It's definitely cool. Obviously, it's getting, there's not a time that, the more and more people that I'm around and I'm talking to, whether you're on private land or public, it really doesn't matter. There's plenty of spots on the private land that I hunt, because I like to see deer and I don't like to have to work any harder than I have to. I'm not going to lie. I think I might be older than all you guys. So I'm looking for that easy street a little bit more the older I get. But man, there's plenty of spots on my property where I don't want to mess around. We've all been on property before. You're walking around and you're like, looks like it's happening here right now. I don't want to go back and do a whole nother set or wait a day. And obviously the saddle is a way to just make it happen fast.
What about just the general idea of being able to get into a tree? Jan, you touched on it earlier, with the smaller trees, right? Then you would typically put a climber or a hang on in. Like, do you guys find that being a pretty common theme, where you're able to hunt out of a tree that you otherwise wouldn't be able to hunt out of?
Yeah. Go ahead, Jan.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the more appealing aspects of the saddle, was the ability to get up in those trees on those islands back in the marshes that I've been hunting. But you know, to Todd's point as well, you know, over the last couple of years, I've had the opportunity to take part in some leases. So on the private lands that we hunt, we basically just prep trees where we think the deer movement's going to be, and we have screw-in steps, and then we just we'll bring our like little platform in with us. This is the Ridge Runner from Out on a Limb Manufacturing, and you basically climb the steps, hang your platform, and hook up to your tether, and you're good to go. It's really that easy. So you can prep like 6-7 trees in different areas on your property, depending on how big the lease is. And that's kind of you know, we always talk about public land with tree saddles, but the leases on the private land is a big thing too. A lot of guys I hunt with have you know, family farms and that as well, and they've kind of been utilizing that aspect of the tree saddle. And you know, to Parker's point earlier, the comfortability factor of the saddle, you know, a lot of that comes with the designs of the saddle. It's integrated into the design, and there's you know, what, 5-6 different companies out there right now, Parker, that are making saddles, and you know, one saddle might not fit a guy the way another saddle will. So it's kind of you know, it's kind of, you got to find the saddle that's right for you. A lot of guys come to the trade shows and try those out, but you know, it's a great tool for public and private land. I think they're very versatile, and I don't get that lower back pain and that butt pain from sitting on those tree stands like I used to when I used to hunt out of the hangars. I think, you know, we have a back band that actually can support your upper back. You actually can recline in the saddle. Some guys take naps in them, and they're hanging there like they're in a little cradle. So very versatile and very comfortable.
Yeah,
Justin,
and
as soon as Justin heard you could take naps, boy, did you see him perk up?
Talking about trees and like size trees, my favorite size of tree to get in is going to be something that's about like that. So like softball size, maybe a little bit bigger. And then, you know, you start getting up. Basketball size is a lot of people's kind of like golden standard, I guess. But I really like it. Number one, because I'm filming. And a good rule of thumb, I guess, for guys is to, if the tree can support your weight, then you can hunt out of it. Like, obviously don't climb a twig, but if it can support your weight, then you're good to go. But like, I'm filming, so on my right side, I've got my filming equipment. I like those smaller trees because I can get around the tree for a shot on my weak side, which would be my right side. Because I can't really do it with my camera arm sitting right there. So my favorite size is, like I said, just that little bit bigger than a softball. And a lot of guys like that as well. Some people, you know, it really just depends. Like, I say that's my favorite size, but if I find the right tree and it's, you know, bigger, then I'm going to hunt that. That's for me the kind of draw of a saddle, especially here in Alabama and a lot of places I've been in the South, is that, you know, here we have a bunch of really tall, straight, limbless pine trees. That's like, you're not in Alabama if you don't got those big, tall pine trees. And so we've got, you know, pretty much endless opportunity of, you can find a tree to climb. Now, when I went to Kentucky for the first time with a climber, I was like, this is stupid. Why would anybody ever use a climber out here? Because a lot of that flat swamp land is going to be gnarly trees, and like around the edges of the field, you're going to have really thick shrubs, and it's just going to be hard to find a spot that's going to be good for a climber. I've done it, and it was the worst thing in the world. And so the second time I went to Kentucky that same year, I had my saddle, and it was incredibly easier to find a place to hunt. So that's the biggest draw for me, is that you can literally get into any tree that you want to get into. Obviously you need to do it safely. Like, safety is the biggest thing. Like, anything can be dangerous if it's not done right. Like, just because you have a saddle on doesn't mean that you're going to be safe. You have to be safe as well. So going over limbs, you can do that, but you need to make sure you have either a backup lineman's belt or some way to keep a point of connection with the tree. And that's just all stuff that you learn. There's saddle hunting forums on Facebook. You asked this, Justin, how does a guy get started? There's saddle hunting forums on Facebook, like Jan mentioned. There's saddlehunter.com. Right now, we're doing this weekend, actually, in 2 days, Tethered's doing these teach and train events. And they're doing them all over the country. A lot of them got canceled because of COVID and stuff. Ours actually got canceled here, but I went ahead and scheduled another one for this weekend. So, it's a free event. Guys from all over, you can find one in the north, you can find them in the south, you can find them in a lot of states. You can probably find one within driving distance where you can come. You got free lunch, you got a chance to win some saddle equipment, and try out stuff. Like, this is the moments, Jan, you probably know this, like these moments where you see guys who have been like kind of anti-saddle for a long time.
The light bulb moment.
They finally get to try it, and they're like, oh, I see, and you're not just watching a YouTube video and figuring it out for yourself. You've got guys who have been using them and have a lot of experience who are showing you how to do it. And the saddle hunting community is freaking awesome too. So you've got guys, if you just put on a Facebook forum, hey, I live in whatever, something, Michigan. Somebody probably in Michigan has a saddle, and they're going to comment and say, yeah, I'll meet up with you. You can try mine out. They're really good. I mean, people are good people.
Yeah. Saddle hunters will definitely tell you they're saddle hunters. You have no problem finding them.
They'll introduce themselves, and that's the second thing they say is, I'm a saddle hunter.
I'm a saddle hunter.
Hello, my name is Justin. I hunt out of a saddle. Good to meet you.
Yeah. To Parker's point, I mean, the light bulb moment when we do trade shows and we go around the country and we meet people, and like you said, we'll get those guys who are real skeptical about it because they've been hunting out of tree stands their whole life, and we'll ask them if they want to sit in it, but they'll just be standing there kind of watching, and we'll finally get them to sit in one, and then they have their eyes light up, and they have this moment, be like, oh, okay, now I get why it's such a big deal, because of the comfort. And to Parker's point about the different size trees as well, that nice basketball size is a great size to hunt out of, because the other thing about tree saddles is you use that tree as a block when the deer come in. So you basically can incrementally move yourself around the tree, and the deer won't pick you off as easy as you are in a tree stand. It's not a lot of movement. It's not like you're swinging around the tree. It's very small movements, but you can use that tree as a block, to be able to get that shot off on the deer. We filmed a lot last year on some leases on some pretty small trees, and we had a lot of deer coming out, and we were using those smaller trees, but they didn't pick us off in those smaller trees. And I'm 6'1", 220. My buddy Kurt's 6'4", and he's about 240, 250. So we had like two pretty big guys up in the trees, and we're having deer walk right past us. So it's a great tool, for all those reasons that Parker was mentioning.
Now, one of you guys. Sorry, go ahead, Justin.
Well, I want to talk about just climbing up the tree, and then the use of a platform or not using a platform, because I see a lot about that. So my understanding is that when you're climbing up the tree, let's just say you're using a set of climbing stick, lone wolf climbing sticks, right? Because that's what I'm most familiar with. My assumption anyways is that you use a lineman's belt no differently than when I'm hanging a regular tree stand. Is that
correct?
Accurate?
Yep. That is accurate.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I hang my sticks, I get up to the top. Now let's talk about the use of you see these tiny little platforms that guys are standing on. Is that a necessity? Like, I feel like I see some people use them, some people don't. Do some guys just stand on a tree limb or on the top of their stick? Or I don't know, like, what are they doing at that point?
Yeah, so there's so many options in the saddle hunting world. You have the tiny platforms. They have this thing called a ring of steps, which is I think it's like 6 or 8 right angle steps that you ratchet to the tree and can create a little loop of steps that guys will step on, so you can get all the way around the tree. I don't find that as comfortable. I had that. I kind of moved on from that and moved to the platforms, but now guys are making mini platforms for the top of their sticks. Some of my friends just stand on the top of their sticks. Some guys I know stand on limbs. So there's a lot of there's a lot of DIY guys in the saddle hunting world that kind of create their own gear and then kind of create these little mini economies and startup companies related to saddle gear. So that's kind of neat to see.
Yeah.
Okay. So Parker, what did you have in your hand? You got a little platform?
So this is the Predator platform from Tethered. This one's actually brand spanking new. I got this is my hunting one, and it's obviously been used a little bit more. But this one's brand new, and I actually, what Jan said, my first 3 deer that I killed out of a saddle, I didn't have a platform. I stood on the top of my helium steps. So, and what I would actually end up doing was I had an extra helium that I would use, and I would use it like an extension of my platform. So I would basically have 2. If this is the top step of a stick, I had 2 of them next to each other around the tree, so I could kind of walk around the tree, similar to what a ring of steps would be. And I thought, like, hey, this is awesome. I love this thing. Now, it was early season. It wasn't cold yet. I think when cold weather probably hits, that pressure being on not having a flat surface to put your boot at would probably suck pretty bad. But it's definitely an option. I mean, there's so many options. Like, Jan was talking about a ring of steps that goes around the tree. That's my second favorite option to use. I'm a guy who is not a gear junkie at all. I've never been like, I want to, if I use something, I want it to be practical. Like, I want it to make me better. Right. I'm not going to be the guy that's like I'm using a heavy arrow setup this year. Because like, I want to be more lethal. Right. Like, I'm using it because.
Oh boy, are you trying to get him?
I got Justin fired up. No, listen.
Shoot him in the lungs. You'll be plenty lethal.
Listen, so the first deer that I killed out of a saddle, we'll show you this. We'll show you this video. It was using a mechanical head, and it like was a perfect shot, quartered away, like perfect shot, and the arrow came out that much below the entry hole. Like, it was the worst. We found the deer, but I don't know how it died. Anyway, that was what made me decide, hey, I'm going to go to fixed blades. Well, then I went to fixed blades, and all of a sudden my bow's not shooting right. So getting the FOC correct, like, I'm not like a super heavy arrow guy. Like, mine's like 540 grains. It's not like I'm shooting a freaking spear at them or anything. I just wanted to get it tuned right and set right so that, I could be more lethal. Same thing with the saddle. I wanted to be more effective with the saddle. Like, I knew that was something that would make me more effective, be able to go deeper, be able to go further, be more comfortable. I sit all day, a whole lot more now. And so that's, for me, that was the whole reason why I wanted to do it. So a platform is one of those things that's just, in my opinion, it's one of those things that if you don't know that it exists, you're going to be like, oh, that's just for comfort. But then once you use it, you're like, okay, I see why this makes me more effective. Like, it's definitely doable to use, a ring of steps or a stick, the top step of a stick. But the platform gives you a whole lot more ability to move around the tree. And guys, like Jan said, man, guys are like DIYers. They're coming up with straps. They're coming up with platforms that have ring of steps around the whole thing. Like, there's like so many different things that guys are doing. And it's really just based on, like what I said at the beginning, it's based on personal preference. Some people are different, some people like it different. And that's the best thing, in my opinion, about it.
And I don't know. I mean, the thing that screams out to me, I'm not a big public land guy by any means, but I mean, what screams to me is just this ability to pack it, take it, be mobile, move. You most likely, if you're hunting public, you might not hunt the same spot the next day if it's not happening, or you're just going to keep on moving on. And it seems, from what I've seen, there's a lot of flexibility that's built into the saddle hunting.
So much flexibility, man. Like, the easiest thing that I have ever done, like the easiest hunt I've ever done, are the times whenever I leave my setup on a tree. Like, so if you're presetting trees on private land, man, like, you're getting all the benefit of a saddle. if you're preset, let me say this, if you're presetting trees for a saddle setup, and literally the only thing you have to carry is your saddle, which is basically like just a pair of pants. It's not, you don't even realize that it's there. Yeah. That's the easiest setups I've ever got. My dad, actually, he owns 20 acres in East Texas, and I got him in a saddle this year, and he's going to be hunting it because you just leave less of a footprint on your property. So you're not using those big giant blinds, and you don't have, ladder stands that are set up that are, the deer know that they're there, right? Like you can be more stealthy even on your private pieces.
Yeah, to your
I
point.
I feel like he's talking to me when he's talking right now, John. I don't know. Are you feeling that? Is that like coming to me? Is that a blast?
No, not at all.
We just know you, Todd, and your type. There's a lot of
I
you
just
out
got
there.
done moving one of those heavy ladder stands like minutes ago.
Yeah, we just prepped 3 trees on our lease. I got a new lease this year over here about 15 minutes away from my house, actually. Really excited about it. And we prepped the trees and we put screw-in steps. So literally all I have to bring is my saddle, my bow, and my filming equipment, and then my platform. Just makes it a lot easier if you have those preset steps.
But back to the public thing again, because I know this public's hot, and let's face it, with COVID going on, it's a bad year to be an animal that's hunted. That's for sure. Because I think everyone and their uncle is going hunting this year. That at least that's the way I'm feeling. Because everyone I talk to feels like they're going hunting. They're going to be outdoors this fall. But obviously with public land, you keep mentioning the screw-in steps, but obviously you can't use the screw-in steps.
Yeah, that's just for a lease, private lease.
No, I know, I'm tracking you, but again, it's just, you're not harming trees. You can be completely maneuverable. It sounds like, provided that you're being completely safe and you have your linesman belt on. If you're not in an area where you've got nice pine trees and they're just perfect going up, as long as you got your linesman belt on, you're being safe. You can unconnect your tether, whatever, go around a limb, keep doing the climbing stick thing all the way up to the platform. It sounds like with the actual foot platform that you're talking about, that's not just for comfort, it's also just for maneuverability and weight distribution, whatever, I'm assuming.
Sure.
And you can sleep in it. Where do I sign up? What else do we need to talk about here? Is this show done?
Hey, I've got a buddy, his name's Ted Bright, and a couple years ago he came out with this like little DIY thing that he put on the carabiner of his tether. So his tether's coming down right here. There's like a little DIY clip-on pillow, so you could just sit like that and sleep the whole time. Pretty awesome.
So he just leans forward on his tether and
he just leans forward on that tether. Great. There's a little pillow, just like that.
So I want to talk for a second about the rope connections and the parts of the saddle, because I hear you guys throw around, the tether, the bridge, like I don't know what any of that stuff is. So give me a rundown. Jan, you got one in your hand. You get to go first.
Yeah, so this is our AeroHunter Flex saddle. So basically,
you move back a little bit. Move so we can see this baby.
Move back here.
Yeah,
how's that?
There you go. That's
there you go.
You see it now? Okay. So I'll just name off the quick parts. So this is the bridge. This is the part that you clip into your tether, which is one of these. This loops around the tree and basically hangs in front of you, and you just clip into a locking carabiner.
That's got a Prusik knot on it. Is that what that is? Is that how you?
This is a lot of the kits that we sell have a Prusik knot. This is actually a mechanical Prusik. This is called a Kong Duck, made by a climbing company out of Italy. They also have another one called a Rope Man. They're basically mechanical Prusiks. They just mechanically move up and down the rope pretty easily. It's just an easy use type of thing.
Okay.
So you basically climb to your top of your platform, set your platform, get up on your platform while you're still attached to your lineman's belt. You would set your tree tether, and then you would clip into your bridge. You would sit back into your tree saddle, and then you would undo your lineman's belt. And so basically you're just hanging from your tree tether. Some guys double those up just for a safety concern. But again, some of these ropes are rated to 5,000 pounds. This is Kevlar reinforced, so I've never felt like I was unsafe when I'm tethered to the tree. And then, your saddle basically has these are your lineman belt loops that your lineman's line clips into. And these are your bridge loops, which is basically where the bridge is attached to, and your bridge can move up and down that.
So your lineman belt does not go into the same spot where your bridge goes to. Got
Correct.
it.
Correct.
I couldn't figure that part out on my own, apparently.
Two sets of loops. So this is your lineman's loops, and then you have your bridge loop.
Got it.
Are you wearing these things out when you walk to the stand, or no?
Depends on how far back I'm going. If I'm going to my lease property, I wear it in. If I'm going someplace close to the parking lot, I wear it in. If I'm going way further back, I just put it on. I put it in my backpack, put it on at the base of the tree.
What about you, Parker? Are you wearing yours in or carrying it?
Yeah,
or both?
I wear mine in every single time. I wear it from the time I get out of the truck at the boat ramp. I wear it while I'm kayaking. I wear it the whole time. The only time I'll take it off is if I killed a deer and I don't want to deal with dragging it out. I don't want to deal with all the stuff in my way. That's pretty much the only time I'll pack it. But like what Jan said, I mean, this is the Tethered Phantom. Let me get everything all. That's the Tethered Phantom. So you have your lineman loop right there, and you've got your bridge loops right there. This is the adjustable bridge that the Phantom has on it, and it's a Amsteel bridge, so it's going to work out basically the same way. That's the part that clips to the tether off the tree, so it's like that. The cool thing about the Phantom is that it's just super adjustable. Like talking about the guys that you're constantly fidgeting with trying to get it just right for you. The Phantom is one of those that for a beginner, you go in and there's so many adjustment points that you can get it right. You don't have to necessarily know what you're doing or anything like that to be able to find a way to get it comfortable. So you've got your adjustable bridge, which is awesome. And then on the on the bridge loops, you have the comfort channels, which basically dictate where the pressure is pulled from. So your bridge is like that.
I was going to ask you guys about that because I've seen where it seems like moving that bridge up and down on those loops must obviously just change the angle.
Yeah.
So hanging at.
So if you're like that, but yes, it changes the angle that it's hanging. So if the lower it is, the more on your butt it's gonna pull. So if you're a sitter, I sit a lot. If you're a sitter, you want to have it on that lower setting because you want it to pull basically further down your butt. And like what Jan said, we've got the recliner, the strap, the backrest that goes around. And I mean, I have yet to sit in a saddle, any saddle that exists. I've yet to sit in one that I was like, this freaking sucks. They're all comfortable. They're all awesome. Depending on who how you're built. That's the biggest part is just getting into saddle hunting, right? Like there's so many different things that all the different companies offer. Start saddle hunting. It doesn't matter. Do what you want to do, figure it out. Yeah. But saddle hunting is just fun in general. That's all there is to it. And like what I said, like you have all kinds of different things, different ways that you can adjust different things. But at the end of the day, saddle hunting is just better.
That's fair. I mean, how much money we talking about? I mean, honestly, I have not researched this financially at all. I mean, Justin never worries about price, but I'm definitely worried.
I put it on the company credit card, man.
Oh, perfect. I mean, let's just talk. What would be an intro setup, and what would be the bad but top of the line setup?
Yeah, so for AeroHunter, obviously we sell the saddles. The saddles themselves are about $269. They're handmade in Grants Pass, Oregon, made in America. We have a workshop up there. They've been making tree saddles since, like I said, 1985 for the arborist and tree climbing industry. We've been in business since 2014, and we have a crew of people in Grants Pass, Oregon that comes to work every morning and hand sews these tree saddles. So you're basically getting a custom-made piece of gear from AeroHunter when you order them. And our kits, which basically gives you the tree saddle, the back band, and the lineman's belt, and the tree tether, that runs $385.
So basically $400 for the kit, and the kit's got everything you need to go hunting.
Correct, minus the platform
you
and
gotta get up the tree. You gotta get up
but most
there.
guys who hunt have
Most
those
guys
anyway.
got that. Yeah,
Yeah,
most guys got a
sure,
set of sticks or
sure.
mini
Yep.
sticks or something.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's going to be, pretty similar with the tethered stuff. There's kits. You can buy individual saddles. The Mantis saddle is $199, which is the first generation of tethered saddles. That's what I used. I loved it. But it's going to be a little more lower end compared to what the Phantom is. The Phantom's $249.99. And then, of course, with both of those, like what Jan said, they offer the same. They have kits, different kits that you can build. And there's also, you can add the platform in with those kits. And so literally you can get almost everything that you need with the exception of a climbing method right now, straight from the website. And it's just super cool. Like we talked about DIY sit drags. A lot of guys aren't willing to spend the coin. They don't want to go and drop a whole bunch of money in something that they don't know if they'll even like it or not. So a DIY sit drag is a really stinking good option to figure out if you even want a saddle hunt. And there's like what we talked about. There's like 4 or 5. It seems like every day I get online, somebody else is starting up a saddle company. So there's tons of different brands, tons of different guys who are just really, like you said, the saddle hunting community is extremely innovative and kind of what got us here in the first place. And so I would look for a whole lot more of that, a lot more options to eventually hit the market.
Cool. Okay, so we covered some of the gear itself. Now, I mean, I know when I was at ATA last year, and I was up in there and I was kind of subbing. Man, it sure seemed like they had all kinds of little extra options and little extra widgets and gadgets. And I mean, seriously, it was getting a little overwhelming there. I mean, they got me up in the tree, but then they were showing me like all these additional extra things that you can do. Why don't you each talk about maybe if there's a 1 or 2 favorite little extras?
I think a lot of what they're looking at was like gear hangers and stuff like that.
Dude,
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of it is really geared. Well, I think a lot of it's geared towards the public land guy, right? The guy that can't just climb up in a tree and screw in a bow hanger.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, what else is Tethered? Tethered, they got all sorts of goodies.
Yeah, so Tethered has a bunch of stuff. We got the his strap, which is going to be like the gear hanging strap where you hang your bow from. I actually don't have one of those on hand right now. It's somewhere in my bucket of stuff. But so you have pretty much all that kind of stuff. Stuff to hang your bow, stuff to hang your pack, hang your range finder and stuff. That's called the his strap, HYS. If you're on the tetherednation.com website, you'll find it there. And it's basically just think of like a daisy chain, a webbing daisy chain.
I have a climbing daisy chain here, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Similar to that.
Yeah, you just attach this around the tree, and then I use what they call as a hero clip, which is like a carabiner, but then it's got a hook on it, which is what I hang my bow from. Mm-hmm. So, and that just clips into the daisy chain, and you just hang your bow off the little off the little hook from the carabiner.
So and those goes around the tree, and then you use the carabiner to put it tight, and then you use all those little holes to hang all your. I mean, Justin's going to have a cell phone holder, and probably a koozie for his Pepsi, of course, and
usually hang my backpack off the other side and the bow on the other side.
All right.
Yeah,
all right.
and they're all public land legal. That's kind of the like what you said. You can find a real tree. I can't remember who actually makes it, but the kind that you just screw in, and that's great. But for a lot of the public land, it's just not necessarily legal. So you've got the his strap, you've got a lot of the pouches that you can get, for all your gear and stuff. The sis haulers is what they're called, and then you've got like the recliner. So that's basically your back band.
Yep.
It goes around midsection on your back. Just think of something.
That's what I was talking about. That was one of the things. So that once they got me up there, they were like, okay, then you can put another thing on, and then it gave you like a whole different level of reclining or comfort.
So we have this kind of the same thing. It just kind of goes up around here, and then it basically clips into your carabiner, and you just lean back into it. It kind of gives you that upper back support. So you have the saddle on your lower support, and you have the back band on your upper back support, and they're very comfortable. I love these things for long days.
What if you need to shoot? You got
So
that thing on.
So basically, you have these little tabs, and if you need to shoot, so if something's coming along, you need to shoot, you just, and then it just basically drops down out of your way.
So one of the ways that I do it, and I don't have my clips here with me, but so if I have this right here, put it on. Somebody skinnier than me used it at the last Teach and Train event, apparently. So if you have it right there, there's like a little S beaner that you can put right there and connect it with your bridge that's also coming up with it. And so you can just move that little S beaner down and it basically follows your bridge. Does that make sense? Kind of what I'm saying?
Sure.
And it just kind of puts it out of your way like that. And that's what I use.
Okay. Makes sense.
I mean,
All right, well, Graf, we got our public land challenge coming up, me against you. We may have to make it
I don't know why
tree
I
saddle
agreed to this
public
crap.
land challenge.
I'm excited
Dude,
for that.
That might be a little overdoing it. Maybe we just start with the public land challenge, then and you can choose whatever weaponry you want. You should use that saddle when we have that competition. That'd be better for me.
I'm planning on it, actually.
I don't know, Todd. Don't be so confident. It may not be better for you.
Well, I'll tell you what. You know what? I will pay either one of you two guys to come up and give me a personal training lesson on how to use this stuff appropriately, because
Come on.
I'm going to need
Yeah.
that help.
Do it.
And I'm all about paying for professional help the older I get, because I've learned you end up way better off in life. This is a
You need to
recommendation
pay
for
for some
anybody
different
listening.
kind of professional help, Graf.
Well, I already paid for that too. But no, you know what? You pay for people who know what they're doing, and then you just come out way further ahead in the end. Because trying to learn on your own sometimes is a lot more difficult. Everyone just thinks you're going to watch these videos, but you know what? It's nice to learn from people. So that's I'm
I'll
throwing that out
learn,
there
and
to either
then
one
you
of
can pay
guys.
me to teach you.
No, I want one of these two guys. These guys know what they're doing. You don't know nothing with this. Okay, so I mean, listen. Obviously, price is not a bottleneck for people to give this a shot. I mean, you're talking less than most quality tree stands to kind of get running and gunning. Most people have tree sticks. Obviously, there's always little extra little widgets and gadgets and things that you can add, which they don't seem like they're going to break the bank, in terms of those little extra items of comfort that you want to add. I mean, obviously, it looks like this whole thing rolls up and can fit right in a backpack, no problem. So if you are humping in and you're not going to wear it, it's easy to get in and out. I mean, one thing I will say that was cool when I was at ATA and I was up in that tree, and this is something we can talk about, is there's no doubt I love my self filming when I'm in my tree stand. I got my camera on my right. I'm all set up. There's no doubt that left shot becomes very, very, very difficult, because even if you got a big camera arm, it's tough to get that baby around you, and you can't always get it around your back to be able to pull it off. And I remember when I was there at ATA, I mean, listen, there's no doubt I was only a couple feet off the ground. I was a little, you got to get used to it. I'm not going to sit here and say that I wasn't myself a little bit. I mean, you got to get used to it for sure. Yeah. But they were showing me, the one dude who obviously he's done this a lot, I forgot his name right now, but I mean, he was showing me how you could like go underneath the rope coming down and be able to shoot and be able to go all the way like hard this way.
Yep.
I mean, you can really expand your shooting opportunities with this thing for sure. From what I could tell.
There's actually a video of Warb with the hunting public in Missouri, I want to say, from last season, where he actually used the whole, like what you're talking about, where he had that tether come basically over his shoulder, and he used that to take that shot. Yeah. Look it up. It's on the Hunting Public channel from Missouri, and you almost are watching it thinking that he's in a tree stand because of the way that it's like set up, but he's really just standing straight up, looking back behind him and taking that shot, which is pretty cool. And like, I've hunted out of tree stands. I've self-filmed out of tree stands. I've self-filmed out of climbers. And it's just it's night and day different as far as ease. There are some hard areas to get to, for sure, but it just takes practice. Like if I were going to do that shot like what you're talking about, I probably wouldn't do it that way. I'd probably turn back around and do it like this, or go around I guess, were you talking, it's hard to tell with a camera view. Were you talking about on your right side or your left side?
I was facing the tree. Well, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, what they were showing me, I mean, I finally got down. The other dude jumped up there, and they had a bow there, and I mean, for the most part, I don't really remember him. I mean, I pretty much think he was able to shoot everywhere. I mean, because he went on this side of the tree, this side of the tree, and then he somehow spun around and was able to really lean out. That's where I got a little freaky. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, that's where I was like, that would take some practice.
Yeah, that's that drop shot that directly behind you where you twist your hips and you can lean out at a 45-degree angle. That's actually a very stable position because you have 2 points of contact. You have the rope and your feet, and it actually locks in, and it's super solid to shoot that way. That offside shot that you're talking where they go underneath the bridge, that's a little bit, that kind of depends on equipment too, whether you have a platform or ring of steps or sticks. That shot's definitely easier with a platform. It'd be kind of hard to do, but then, there's other ways to do that weak side shot where you put your hip to the tree, you come over the bridge, and you're kind of like in a sitting position as well. There's so many ways to do different shots and get that 360-degree shot opportunity with the tree saddle that I just never felt like I had with a tree stand. And the other thing I just touched on too is that 2 points of contact where you're locked into your tether and your feet. In a tree stand, I always felt a little wobbly sometimes when I was like hyper focused on trying to make a shot. I always felt like I kind of tip out a little bit. This way you're locked into that tree and you can't like really fall out of your tree saddle. So that's another great benefit to them.
Yeah. And like what you're talking about with that weak side shot, man. The weak side shot is the hardest one to figure out. Yeah. And literally everybody I know does it different. But as long as you practice it, as long as you're getting used to it, self-filmer weak side shot makes it even harder. But there's different ways, man. I've shot several deer on my weak side. What I do personally is I still, I'll use my top step of my stick as an extension of my platform. So if my platform's sticking out like this, I'll use that top step like that, and I'll just go around the tree to my weak side. Nice. So that I have my camera right there. That's how I've always done it, and it works out great. It's a little more stable for me, having something to put my feet on.
So as a self-filmer, Parker, you're up in the tree, you're in your saddle, you're facing the tree, right? Where are you typically putting your camera? On your right side or your left side?
Yeah, I'm putting it on my weak side, so my right side, because what I'm gonna ultimately what I want to do is I want to set up for, obviously a deer is going to do different things no matter what, but if I'm hunting a main trail or a main pinch point, I want it to be right there at like my 9 to 11 o'clock, maybe even 12. That's where I want my range to be at. And another reason why I like smaller trees is I can get my camera arm actually on the other side of that tree. So I can basically film around the tree. Does that make sense? Back to getting where I'm at. But what I can also do right there is on a shot that maybe is more of my 9 o'clock, I can put the camera right here between me and the tree. So that camera is shooting right there. And I can get all of that. And then the easiest thing that I can do, because I know that the hardest shot that I'm going to have to make is the weak side shot. My camera is already on my weak shot. If by chance I have to do that, it requires the least amount of movement. I can just literally take my camera, turn it, and then all of my movement is not going to be based on my camera. It's going to be to get that shot off. So my weakest opportunity is actually the easiest one to get on camera, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yep.
Parker, do you use a 3-section camera arm?
I don't actually. I use the Fourth Arrow, the old Fourth Arrow carbon arm.
Okay. Those are nice.
Which is it's great. I'm actually pretty soon. I have the order in. I'll be getting one of the Lone Wolf custom gear which is a 3, the pocket arm, which is a 3 arm, whatever, 3 pivot arm, I guess, or whatever. So I'll be getting one of those fairly soon.
Yeah, I've just heard those are a little bit easier to get around the tree, that 3 section, because they articulate a little bit more, and you can get them around those trees like you were talking about.
Yeah, and there's several, and I'm noticing most people are going to that. Even the new 4th Arrow Talon, I think is what it's called. Their new one is a 3 section. The Reach, I believe, is a 3 section. The Assassin, is that it? The Assassin Reach from Out on a Limb.
Yep, that's a 3 section.
It's a 3 section. So most of your bigger companies that are doing camera arms are going opting with the 3 section. So I'm excited about it. I think that'll definitely help. Especially, I didn't get a buck on film last year. Actually, the biggest deer that I killed on film last year, because I couldn't get. He literally came in right underneath me on my strong side, so it was a great shot, but my camera arm was too long. I couldn't get it in between me and the deer with the tree. It kept getting hung up on the tree. And so with a 3 section arm like that, I mean, you just have so much more maneuverability.
So on that type of shot, your camera arm is kind of between you and the tree, and it's underneath your bridge, or is it over top of it?
It would be underneath my bridge. So different people like it different. So I don't know if y'all know who Catman is, Catman Outdoors. Yep. He does saddle hunting stuff as well. He likes his like way the freak up here, because he wants to get everything, like everything above him. I like mine a little bit lower, because I want to be able to get it through, like in between my stomach and the tree, basically. And the older I get, the harder that becomes, because my stomach
getting closer to the tree.
Yeah, it gets closer to the tree these days. But like that, the only problem with that shot is like what I said, like I on that specific tree, my camera kept getting stuck on the bark of the tree and making noise. And so I was like, do I shoot this deer at 7 steps right underneath me, or do I try to get him on film? And I opted just to shoot him, which it is what it is. It happens.
Sure. In my world, we can't do that. Todd yells at me, and I yell at him.
No, nobody is paying me money to shoot deer on film, so
fair enough. Then you're a
we're
smart
good to
man.
go. Yeah.
So why bring a camera?
Yeah. Hey, you just never know, man. I know a lot of guys that do it. They do it and they film it when it works out, and if it doesn't work out, then they don't worry about it, right? I mean, that's kind of the gist of it.
Pretty much it.
Sweet. Well, I appreciate it, guys. Parker, if people want to check out your podcast, your YouTube channel, website, where do they find you, man?
Yeah, so the podcast is a part of the Sportsman's Nation podcast network. So you can it's on the Whitetail feed, the Whitetail RSS feed. Just type it in, Southern Ground Hunting. You'll find it. We also have our own individual feed, so you can check it out there. Just type in Southern Ground Hunting, southerngroundhunting.com. On YouTube, search Southern Ground Hunting. On Facebook and Instagram at Southern Ground Hunting, all one word. It's pretty easy. I have made it idiot proof.
You were fortunate. You got like the exact spelling for all of your business names. Nobody has to worry about anything. Sweet. So Southern Ground Hunting, Parker McDonald, appreciate it. Jan, if people want to find more about AeroHunter and your saddles, where do they check you guys out?
If you want to check us out on our website, it's aerohunter.us. And then we have YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, AeroHunter Tree Saddles.
And that's Aero like AERO, not Aero ARROW.
AERO.us.
Yes. And hopefully very soon we will have a brand new spanking website for you guys up very shortly, so you guys can go buy some saddles. So we appreciate you guys taking the time today to chat with us. I think you've inspired us a little bit more than we were already inspired to give the saddle life a try. We'll make sure we post all over social media about it, so everybody knows that we are saddle hunters.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. I really do appreciate
Super
it.
nice meeting you guys. Appreciate it.
All right.
You too.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time with some more interesting bow hunting conversations. But for today, we're out of here. So see you guys next time.